Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to another second channel video. And whoa, Justin Trudeau has just resigned as Canadian Prime Minister. This is a big deal because it's the leader of a country resigning after almost a decade, but also because he clearly doesn't want to. You can tell this from his face, you can tell this from the video, but you can also tell this when he more or less directly says it. He is a fighter, but internal battles within his party means he can't be the leader of them for the next election. This means he's going to have to stand down, and obviously some of the biggest parts of that is his finance minister quitting and saying it's because of how he was handling the Trump tariffs. So Canada has to work out how they're going to deal with their big neighbor to the south, and indeed the big question now is what's going to happen next in Canada. And the easy answer to that is, well, they're going to pick a brand new prime minister. Justin Trudeau has stood down, but it won't actually take effect until March when a brand new Liberal leader is elected. Because Canada, like most democracies around the world, are a parliamentary democracy, which means you don't elect the leader directly, you elect representatives who elect that leader. And so the Liberal Party got the majority of seats in 2015, and so as a result of having the majority of local representatives, those representatives could pick a prime minister. It works a bit backwards, and a lot of people do vote based on the prime minister at the time, but that's how it's been since 2019 and into 2021 for a very long time now. In fact, he is, if we check right here, the 7th longest serving prime minister in Canada, and weirdly enough is the son of the 3rd longest serving prime minister, so this is going to be the end of an era, at least in some sense of that word. However, the most interesting thing about his replacement is not just that people are already putting their name forward, like, oh yeah, what about the former governor of British Columbia, or what about another key party figure here? You know, we have all these huge questions. Wait, Mark Carney? I feel like I know that name. Oh yeah, former central banker. He ran the bank in the UK. What's he doing? Anyway, the important thing here is to say that the Liberal Party have to pick a new leader, and they partially have to deal with the current state of affairs where they do not have a majority in the Commons. So they have 160 seats out of 170 needed for a majority. So they need to pick a leader who can run the country between March, which is when they'll be selected, and October, which is when the next election happens. But also they need to pick a leader who can win that election. Because here's the thing, Canada was a very, very close two-party system for a little bit. It's effectively a three-party country, but the two biggest parties got 33 and 34% of the vote, something which was more or less true until about 2023, but then in the last 6 months this has happened. And the unfortunately named CPC, seriously, you could, yeah, I feel like you need to work on your branding there, Conservatives of Canada, but the unfortunately named CPC have 45% of the votes to 20 and 19 for the 2nd and 3rd place. That means they have almost as many votes as all of the other parties outside of Quebec combined, and so there is a huge wave of popularity for this new leader, who, if I'm not mistaken, this just popped up, says that nothing has changed and that every Liberal MP and every leadership candidate who might be replacing him is obviously complicit in what's going on there. And so don't change who you might vote for based on the new leader. It's still going to be the same old party, which is the interesting problem with, or you could say problem or virtue of the way that party systems work in parliamentary democracies. Are you voting for the party? Are you voting for your local candidate? Or are you voting for the leader? And Pierre Poilievre is trying to make the case that you voted for the party, and so even though they're picking a new leader, it's still the same old Liberals who have, I don't know, campaigning speech. I'm not deeply familiar with his policies in Canada. I'm something about housing, I would guess, something about, you know, it's 2024, so some form of cultural war. But like, whatever, those same things, the new Liberal Party are going to have the same opinions as the old one, and so in 2025, you should vote for him, or you should vote for them. What's it currently looking like, though? Like I mentioned, it's 45% for the CPC, but what's even wilder is, like, when you put it like that, you really kind of undersell the big deal which is actually sitting under it, because if we go to the main page here, you can see what that actually results in, federally speaking. So having, because of it's first past the post in Canada, and because of that first past the post system, the Liberals are going to get not just, you know, like losing half of their seats, they're going to lose almost all of them, because you need to win in every individual seat. And similarly, the Conservative Party, by having a almost doubling in their vote, basically win every single seat, including the famous Liberal provinces, like all the way on the east here. These are basically always red sweeps. What was formerly a red sweep is going to become, oh, it took a while to load there, it's going to become a province where 45% of people will vote for the thing. I just think it's absolutely wild how this works. Wait, this didn't take me where I was trying to go. Anyway, the important thing is that, like, for all of these very red provinces to go blue, Canada uses the normal election system of red meaning left, blue meaning right. I mean, literally, how can you have red mean right? Do you know what color the most left position is? Anyway, the important thing here is that because of this, Canada is going to be going very, very blue at the next election. And so here's the interesting thing about that. It probably could have been avoided. And I looked into Justin Trudeau's resignation beyond just the fact that he didn't want to do it. And there were some really key points that he raised in there. One of the biggest ones being that he's really bummed that his finance minister quit. Again, that is a big issue that Canada has. And the other one being that he named his biggest disappointment. He obviously did a little bit of campaigning talking about how the Conservatives aren't going to be right for Canada and that stopping the fight against climate change doesn't make sense because the Conservatives want to drill for more oil, arguing that let's make Canada rich, where, you know, let's hurt the climate a little bit but help ourselves a lot, I guess could be the way to simplify that. And he also spoke about his biggest regret for his premiership, which is the fact that in particular he wanted Canadians to be able to choose their second and third choices in elections. The single transferable vote is what I think he's just about describing there, where you don't just have to say, oh, there's two parties and I'm going to pick for the one that I hate least, where you could say, well, I like these people, and then I like these people the second most, and then I like these people third most, and I'm only voting for these guys because I really hate these guys, or vice versa. So you could vote one, and then when they get eliminated, they don't win the most votes. Your votes transfer over until eventually you might get to that two-party system. And you know, the reality being that you would have a more progressive election system, and you could even have proportional representation, which means that unlike in the last election, which is probably the best time to have done it, the Liberals got 33% of the vote, but got close to half of the seats, whereas their opponents got 34% of the vote, a higher number, but got fewer seats. That is a bad thing and something he could have fixed, but I'm guessing maybe internal battles are the reason he couldn't do that either. It's a big shame because Canada is a party with a three-party system, and so as a country, or again, you could sort of argue for, I'm not going to argue the Greens are a real fourth party or the People's Party are a real fifth party, no offense Canadians, but I think as a 3 to 3.5 party system, I think Canada is the perfect place to have proportional representation, to have some form of system like that, but sadly it hasn't been implemented. So yeah, that is now that means there's going to be a likely wipeout, and the big question is, how big of a wipeout? Will it be this big? Probably not. I bet somewhere in the campaign there's going to be something that shifts some number of voters over, maybe from the from the blues to the reds, maybe from the blues to the yellows, maybe from the reds to the yellows. But what's interesting is Canada has a history of, unlike other three-party systems like in the UK, they actually did have their third place party become the second place party for a little bit in there, and I think that's absolutely fascinating that you can have systems like that where the three parties sort of do change. And so yeah, you've got lots of choices if you live in Canada right now. And good luck on taking them, I guess, because you have to pick one, and just only one. But yeah, what should your new leader do if you are Canadian? I think that is a question on everyone's mind in the country, and I think the big questions are kind of down to what was mentioned here. Like, the Trump tariffs are going to be a very, very big deal for the country, but yeah, there's a fun map that I've seen, and I think everyone tries to blame it on Trudeau, but you've seen that Canada and the US more or less had similar standards of living up until about 2015, when real GDP per capita, which is adjusted, actually slowly started to dip. Interestingly, GDP per capita has always been a little bit lower in Canada, but the difference has started to get wider and wider, and people will blame it on Justin Trudeau, and I'm going to be honest with you, my immediate thought upon looking at this graph that has his face, and not just his normal face, you know, his sad face is something too, right? But his face, when he's got that beard on there's something about it that makes him seem like he could destroy a country, you know? But anyway, the important thing here is if you look at this, you can see, like, very clearly, like, oh, it must be Trudeau that did this, and that was my instinct. But I wanted to look into it a bit deeper, and I think the biggest actual explanation for this is not down to that or down to GDP per capita or anything like that, but I think you could put it simply as, like, USD to CAD. I think you could put it simply down to the way that the Canadian dollar has gone to the US dollar. Or actually, we go CAD to USD, I guess, to be to put this in a better terms. So if you look at the way the Canadian dollar was doing, because of the huge exports, I think mostly like wood and oil, if I'm being honest, but because of the huge exports from Canada to the US, there was actually close to dollar parity between the two countries, and around about 2015 is when it really started to dip to its 0.7 level that it's remained at, although, oh, looks like it dipped a little bit more in there somewhere. You can see that the Canadian dollar has dipped, which means that when you adjust for, when you go to international standards, as this map tries to do, Canada has effectively gotten internationally a little bit poorer. In day-to-day lives, you're not going to spot it in all the places, but it is going to be very clear when you travel or when you import things, and that is a particularly big deal when discussions about tariffs are coming up. So the next Canadian leader has to address that. The next Canadian leader has to work out, how do we get the country in a better footing internationally? And that is why, as crazy as it is, I want to come out here and make a bold take, right? Because one of the biggest things that Justin Trudeau does not like about his opposition, or at least the biggest one he campaigns on, is the idea of saying that he is going to stop the fight against climate change. And so I want to make a controversial take here, because as a Canadian, you might say, yeah, I'm not going to care about the climate. I'd much rather make a bunch of oil money for Alberta or whatever. But I think there's as someone who is, I would say I'm friendly to Canadians. They're one of the great allies of my country and my people, and they're great people in general, right? I think the Anglosphere is something we should all we should all appreciate, and we can invite Europe in there when they feel like speaking English too. But as a proud member of the Anglosphere, I want Canada to go and get that. It's probably ultimately there is a certain amount of oil that will have to be drilled or dug or whatever, and ultimately, do you want your enemies to be making the money from that, or do you want it to be your friends? If I learned that China was having this exact same discussion, or I don't know, what's a more non-friendly country? If I learned North Korea had a big debate in their very fair and very balanced parliamentary system where the leader was calling out the opposition because the opposition wanted to drill for oil and they didn't want to, I'd be like, yes, North Korea, keep that oil in the ground. That way we can help out the planet and our oil will be worth more, right? And it's realistically a lot of natural gas where I live, but you get the idea. If you want other countries not to extract their resources and you want you to extract yours, and the only problem is if everyone does it all at the same time. And so if you unilaterally disarm yourself, if you try to walk back that, is it a good thing? For the world, yes, but for your country, no. And the modern era of politics seems to be very much country first, and that is what Canada has to work out. How can you be country first when the country to your south is very much saying country first, but different country? International cooperation seems to work very well, but in 2025. In 2025, we have moved out of an era of trying to work out global cooperation and instead back into an era of what if every country just did what's good for themselves, and hopefully it's good for other countries too. And in that era, I can see why that leads so many Canadians to think that they should pick Pierre, and I wonder if the new Liberal leader will also lean in that direction too. But anyway, with that said, oh wait, I think I can actually, MPP, so I'm going to put in Nova Scotia. I guess there's too many ridings in Nova Scotia. I'm just so curious, again, the reddest of the red places, the leftist of the left-wing places have all gone deep blue. There's, except for this one part of Alberta, which is gonna swing from blue to orange. Anyway, there's so many interesting things happening in Canada, and as an election follower, let me tell you, this is gonna be a good year for it, because we've got Germany, their government recently collapsed, we've got potentially France, we've got Canada. It's gonna be a good time for global elections, and I hope you're looking forward to it, because this has been a second channel video, and as always, I don't care. I'm just kidding, I clearly care. I heard the news and I was like, I should go and tell the internet this, because I get excited about these things, and I know that some number of you watching this channel also do too. But we'll talk about maps, and I have a video. I want to talk about toilets around the world, because I've been making more and more videos, kind of showing off some of the places I go, because I love to travel for kind of geography-related reasons, right? The weird places. I'm looking to go somewhere that doesn't have a McDonald's, for example. Wow, shocking. I'm going to 5 countries this January. None of them have a McDonald's in them, and so yeah, isn't that interesting? But yeah, I figured because of one of the parts of travel being using the bathroom, I figured I would talk about how toilets around the world are different, and you can see that video soon, because apparently I do care. But don't let anyone know, okay? So, second channel, don't care. Bye.